my mother was locked up and put to death. How could have any more brothers and sisters?
I know, yeah, but, yeah.
26 when she was put to death.
Yeah.
She had my brother in there, Bessborough.
Yeah.
3 years and my granny fought. Brought him home to the market in Cork.
Yeah.
I'm originally from Cork.
Yeah.
And she brought him home. My brother was going to school, happy. And because my mother got pregnant with me, she was dragged out of her home.
Yeah.
3 months pregnant on me by a scumbag right priest.
Yeah.
This wasn't married.
Which is wonderful.
I'm going to look at this sign too.
Of course, yeah.
You went into a hospital to the bay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Then I was brave to left in the street.
Do you want to talk now or do you want to talk after the speakers?
After the speakers. Whatever you do want. Do it now.
It's completely...
You want to do the speakers?
What's the
You probably
speakers?
want to do the speakers, don't you?
Get everything that way.
Hello.
Thank you, Mary. God bless you, Mary.
Wait till after the speakers.
Thank you, Mary.
Because we want to do that.
Yeah, we'll do everything. So sorry, guys. Shocking. It's absolutely shocking. Shocking. Excuse me. I'm so sorry. Oh God, it's great to see you. I see you in everything. You're so reliable. Thank you for your activism. Oh, sorry, Mom.
Okay.
Sorry, sir.
And some of the staff. And they invited me in to talk about my experiences of being born in Bessborough and adopted, and my experiences with the legacy of being born
Excuse me.
in Bessborough and
Excuse me.
growing up in a Catholic family.
I'm sorry. Oh, yes, yes.
Institutional Barriers Bill amendment.
Oh, sorry. I gotta get her.
And when there was a
Sorry, guys.
planning for this,
I'm so sorry.
granted on the grounds of
Sorry, I'm
Bessborough.
gonna...
Those young people in Larkin Community College went
you
to
won't
their
get any
teachers and
mainstream
said,
covers.
what can we do about this? How can we change this? We want to take action. So this is why I organised the protest. Those same young people will be here at 4 o'clock tomorrow doing a vigil for the 953 that died in Bessborough and are still missing. A mass grave in Bessborough and Sean Ross Abbey and Castle Pollard. They will be outside here. And they will deliver a letter to the Taoiseach and everybody that voted down the institutional burials bill. They will also have 923 paper hearts that they made with the name of each child written on each of those hearts. We don't need to tell our young people how wrong these human rights abuses and the legacy that we've been left with. They get it, even though it's not on the curriculum. We need to tell the adults in there the significance of what happened in this country and the legacy that still goes on and the large-scale human rights abuses. I want to thank everybody that is out here today in their solidarity, people from all aspects of my life, politically, artistically, and every other way. We're going to also say thank you to the people who agreed to speak today. And we're going to kick off because we have a tight deadline. The Irish Neutrality League have a protest coming after us. So I'm going to call on Senator Alice Mary Higgins to say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're so reliable. You're always here. Thank
Just
you.
a couple of weeks ago, myself and Senator Lynn Ruan, we followed up on and Senators Francis Black and Eileen Flynn. We brought forward a bill that we actually drafted, myself and Senator Ruan, back when the institutional burials bill was going forward originally. Because we saw how narrowly that bill was framed, that the definition of manifestly inappropriate burial was so narrow that it could really only apply in the case of Tuam. And we knew that there were other cases, some very clear cases, including Bessborough, which is one that is a strong focus for me for many years, where it's inappropriate, not just inappropriate, but outrageous, how children and the bodies of children were treated and disappeared. So our bill was a very reasonable bill to widen the definition of manifestly inappropriate. So it would identify situations where, for example, there are no proper burial records to go with the death records. It would identify situations where you had astronomical death figures and say, these are situations that are inappropriate. And it would also say that burial ground, the narrow definition of burial ground, needed to be wider than what was in the bill, which purposely only included a tiny fraction of the ground in places like Bessborough. So we brought that bill in good faith, and it was voted down. And it was voted down, and we walked right out of that chamber and were told that planning permission had been granted for Bessborough. Planning permission that had previously been refused on the grounds that they could not be sure there were not child burial ground there. Refused twice. And where the inspector told the board, Flanola himself, said that again in this last application, the same grounds should be ruled, the same concerns are still there and not addressed, the same mystery of 953 children, of whom only a tiny handful are accounted for. So it was shocking to come out and see that moving ahead, and again an erasure and another act of violence against those who suffered in the institutions. But I want to read one phrase in particular because I think it's the most egregious phrase that we heard when our bill was being voted down. It's crucial. When the government voted it down, they didn't actually vote it down, sorry. They did a new technique they've never done before called a reasoned amendment to decline a reading for our motion. So again, after a history of exclusions and erasures, they're literally trying to disappear our bill off the papers rather than even have the decency to come and say how they'll address the gaps, how they'll address the problems, how they will or won't amend it. But they can, and I should say, just as a last, that bill, by the way, did not require excavation, it simply allowed the definition of inappropriate burial to set in motion the possibility for action in situations like Bessborough. And in the reasoned amendment, in their written down reasons that they gave us for why they declined to support the bill, they included the line, it should be noted that there was no legal obligation on private burial grounds to keep a register of burials, and that high mortality rates could sadly sometimes be a feature of historic congregated settings. High mortality rates could sadly sometimes be a feature of historic congregated settings. 75% mortality rates in 1 year for the children in Bessborough. Is it just a little historical anomaly? Just the kind of thing that happened at the time? It's not. It was outrageous then. And we have, and I won't go, but we have the figures. Right then, the council were calling alarm. Right then, there was outrage and people expressing concern and expressions and actions and desires for action being called. It was not normal. And the simple decision to not just oppose the bill, but also paper over and normalise the kinds of things we saw in Bessborough. And then again, I've heard today in the Dáil, try and put a frame on it. Well, it's expensive. What do you get for your money? You mightn't even find the babies. This kind of grotesque, business as usual normalisation that says you can paper over history and not acknowledge it is unacceptable. And that's why I thank you for being here. And I think the children who are coming with the paper hearts that say they care about the other children here in history in Ireland, and I'm sure across the world, children everywhere and at every time. And they want them memorised, recognised and their burials found and identified. And we will continue to press despite the government blocking this bill. And thank you all again.
Thank you so much, Alison. I really appreciate that. One of the hardest things this week in organising the protest was the balance discussions. The people who would say to me, well, you know, it's apartments, they're building apartments. And the developers did say that if they were digging and they found bones, that they would stop digging. They're not just bones. There are 20 pages here of the names of those 923 children, their ages and how they died. They are never just bones. So can we please stop that conversation? Our next speaker, again, someone who's been working hard around this issue, is Senator Laura Harman. Thank you.
Hi everyone, and thank you so much, Noel, for organising this important protest here today. And I'm really proud to say that the Labour Party have been standing firm on this issue for many years. And along with my colleague, Councillor Peter Horgan in Cork, we've lodged an appeal against this building of apartments on Bessborough, along with Carmel Cantwell, who's here today. And I want to start by talking about shame. In the Irish language, when we talk about emotions, we say that they are on us. So, tonora an stot, for example, there's shame on the government. But I think this is fitting because we put shame on top of women. And shame is a tool of oppression. It was used to oppress people, to silence them. And the opposite of shame is pride. And I am proud of every single survivor. I am proud to stand with you all here today to campaign on this issue, because we cannot allow any building of apartments on this site. And let me be abundantly clear. The shame does not lie with us, with you, with survivors, with the babies, with the women of Ireland. The shame lies with the state. It lies with the institutions who were supposed to be protectors, but instead were perpetrators. How many women's hearts were broken at Bessborough? And how many hearts of babies stopped beating at Bessborough? There are 859 missing babies, which are highly likely buried on this sacred site, which must be protected. They deserved dignity during their life. They deserve dignity now. Those babies were loved. Those babies are loved, and we need to cherish them, remember them, and value them. It is the duty of a republic to hold itself to account. Those were the words of Taoiseach Micheál Martin in 2021. He's Taoiseach again now. It's his constituency in Cork South Central where Bessborough lies. He was at the memorial last year, which I attended. He's spoken words of support for survivors. Those words cannot be empty, and we are calling on the state to step in, to acquire this land, to put it into public ownership, to make a memorial befitting of all of those who passed through, the 19,000 plus women and babies that passed through Bessborough. We need to reckon with our shameful history in this country for once, and we need to reckon with the truth, and we deserve the truth, and survivors need and deserve truth and justice. And on a personal note, I was born to a single mother, unmarried mother at the time, in the late 80s, in rural Ireland. And she experienced shame. She knew women. She had friends who were in Bessborough. The term Bessborough itself was a term that was used to threaten. It was a term that was feared when you heard it spoken. And it still resonates with so many people, not just in Cork, but all across this country. And we need to reckon with that past. We won't accept this. We will not, under any circumstances, be silenced And if we have to jump in front of the diggers ourselves, then we will absolutely do that if it comes down to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator, for all your hard work around this issue. Yeah, I mean, you think about those children and how they died, and I sat in the Shannon a couple of weeks ago and heard Minister Foley talking about, well, you know, they died because of overcrowding and, you know, the spread of disease, which some of them did, let's be clear. But when you go through the death records, I'll tell you something, you see another side to all of that. The word that keeps coming up is marasmus. It's from the Greek word to wither. They were left to die, left to starve, died of malnutrition. That's not overcrowding, that is deliberate neglect. Our next speaker, and I'm very glad that she's here, is Deputy Mary Lou MacDonald. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, I find it incredibly hopeful and optimistic and encouraging, but also deeply, deeply distressing that we and you are all gathered here again this evening to again reiterate to the organs of state, to the people of power, to the people in government, that women and children are not commodities, they are not statistics, they are not merely bones, but human beings that enjoy the full set of human, social and democratic rights, rights that were denied to far too many women for far too long. Women who knew the horrors of Magdalene laundries, women who knew the horrors of mother and baby homes, women who knew the horror of the stigmatization, of the discrimination, the isolation, the poverty, and the wholesale abuse that the state and its institutions visited on them for far, far too long. Marasma, hunger, hungry babies, neglected babies who we know for the most part died on their own. Died on their own, most of these babies who died. Many of them taken from the arms of their vulnerable, desperate mothers. Many of them, too many of them, left in the most appalling circumstances that we can only struggle to imagine now. And survivors, brave survivors who live to tell the tale, the children, but many of the women too, who came and told their stories again and again and again, here in this spot, but also inside the walls of the Oireachtas. And then we had apology after apology. When does sorry actually mean sorry? When does acknowledgement actually mean accountability? When we say the words that women now matter and count, that our children now matter and count, when we say those words, when do we see the actions that verify that truth? That's how fundamental this issue is. Yes, it's about a planning permission. Yes, it is about the desecration of a site, a crime scene perhaps, the holding of evidence of the brutality visited on these small young lives. But also it represents a chapter of our collective history, which we were told by those inside was now merely history, not a past or a present trauma to be revisited again and again and again. This isn't the first time, by the way, that the state has denied the rights of women, of children, of victims to be heard. I'm looking at Victor there and I think of the Bethany home, a battle that's still ongoing for those victims and children to be heard. The Bethany home is not a stone's throw from where I grew up in this city. My mammy passed that place when she brought me home from the hospital, and I know I'm no spring chicken, but I'm not exactly a historical artifact just quite yet. So this is distant but close, past but proximate, And above all else, it matters that the state understands that women and children are not second best, not second class, and the trauma visited on them, on us, cannot be merely glossed over. When does sorry mean sorry? When does a state apology amount to acknowledgement and actions to follow? This isn't the first planning application, by the way, on the site, as you know, of a mother and baby home. I'm thinking of St. Patrick's on the Navan Road, now built into a very fine housing estate. And there was no attempt then, as there is no attempt now, to really be honest with the past, to really call the thing out in a way that matters, and to actually honour all of these named precious lives. So I stand here in solidarity again with all of you who campaign on these important matters. 1998, I think, was the date that the last Magdalen laundry closed on Sean McDermott Street. That's how close this still is to us. And I think our collective demand now in rejecting this obnoxious, cruel granting of planning permission, we have to state loudly and clearly that sorry matters, but it's not enough. Accountability, dignity, respect, remembrance, naming the dead and acknowledging them, that is what we demand. And I stand with you this evening again in solidarity for that cause, and with the most tremendous, profound respect for all of the survivors who are here with us this evening, and for those who are not. We thank you for your voice, and the sorry of government may not mean anything, but I think the sorrow of the Irish people and our determination that you have justice is absolutely steadfast. Guramina Mahaguk.
Thank you, Deputy MacDonald. Yeah, in terms of the planning permission, there's also a phase 2 and a phase 3 of that planning permission. So while they're saying, well, we'll build somewhere where there aren't graves, we don't know where the graves are. So they're ultimately going to take over all the land. Funnily enough, the only thing they won't knock down is the house itself, because there's a preservation order. We preserve a building, but we have no respect for children. That's not us as a country. We care about ritual. We care about grief. We care about the rights to a proper burial. Our next speaker is Deputy Richard Boyd Barrett. Thank you.
And that site on
I know, thanks, and well done, Noel, to you and to all those involved in organising this extremely important protest. I'm still learning about the issue. I'm not an expert on all that happened in Bessborough, although of course I'm aware of the issue. But I really am very glad to be here supporting your protest as somebody who was born in a mother and baby home myself. And funny enough, recently I was in London with my birth mother, because I was lucky in that 38 years after we were separated by the church and state regime, in effect, that operated in this country and stigmatised mothers who had children outside of marriage. But in our case, we were lucky that she found me, and we were reunited. And we went looking for just in the last, it was over Christmas, early in the new year, we decided to go looking for the mother and baby home where I was born, which was somewhere in Highgate, but she couldn't remember because she was so traumatised at the time. And I obviously wanted to see where I was born. Now we didn't find it, and we're still gonna, go searching for it. We'll find it hopefully eventually. But the point is, that's part of my history, and that's my part of my identity, and that is part of the trauma that my mother suffered, to be in effect forcibly separated from her child, and for the child to be forcibly separated from his mother. And I lived to tell the tale, and we're lucky in the outcome we had. But if that matters to me, my history, my identity, my heritage, when I was lucky enough to still be around to tell the tale, and for us eventually to be reunited, how much more important is it to respect the 859 children who disappeared, who we don't know where they are, what happened to them, but who lost their lives in these dark institutions, these terrible institutions that did this to mothers and to children, and that it's sort of grimly appropriate, isn't it, that we go from a regime that abused and treated women and children in this horrendous way, even to the point that hundreds of those children died, and that we can't account for where they are, what happened to them, that we go from that to a property developer wanting to profit out of the site, and that is allowed to happen. I mean, it says everything, doesn't it, about this republic, that we could go to this architecture of oppression of women and children, and this devilish treatment of women and children for decades and decades by church and state, and we go to that, to the property developers, who are still put ahead of respect for those who are the victims of this dark and cruel system. It's really appalling. It's absolutely appalling, and so you're so right to fight this. And I hope the government is listening. There wasn't much sign of it from what we heard today. I raised it briefly, as did others, Holly and people from the Labour Party, and all the parties, I think, raised it at some point today. And the answer was pretty pathetic that we got. So I hope the state will atone for what they have done by not adding this yet another insult to those who suffered, to the survivors, to those who didn't survive, to the mothers, to the relatives, to all those who are fighting for the proper justice and truth about what happened to those hundreds and hundreds of children, and all of those who suffered in Bessborough and other similar institutions. So well done to you for keeping up this fight, and I seriously hope the government will listen and not allow this final insult or further insult. God knows they continued on to, even with the 6 months thing, you know, the mother, you know, that was another insult, wasn't it? Sorry, I was just about to finish there, but I just remember that, you know, this arbitrary thing of how do we limit the redress. If you weren't 6 months in a mother and baby home, you didn't really deserve redress. As if the crime wasn't the separation. It didn't matter if it was one day you were in these institutions. If you were forcibly separated, mother and child, by this regime, that is a crime for which redress is owed. And they just don't seem to get it. All they're really trying to do is limit their exposure, limit their responsibility, and even worse, continue to facilitate, you know, private interest. Before, the private interest was the church and what it could do for the state, and now it's private property developers, of course, who are the best friends of the same people. So shameful, but keep up the fight, because you're upholding the conscience of the country.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Boyd. Yeah, it's true. You know, places hold histories, and it's important. We can't keep eradicating them, and we have been battered as survivors since the publication of the Commission investigation report, which destroyed our voices. And then on top of that, we had the redress bill that excluded 40% of survivors, 28,000 survivors. Our next speaker is Deputy Padraig Rice.
Thanks very much, and thanks to everybody for attending today, and especially thanks to Councillor Noel Brown and Carmel Cantwell for all their years of tireless work on this issue. One thing is crystal clear: apartments should not be built on what we know is a mass grave. This would not be accepted anywhere else, and it cannot be accepted here. This is not right, and we will not allow it. I was at the Vigil outside of Bessborough recently, and there was the boards, which we have again today, which set out the death records of the institution. We know that 923 children died in the care of nuns at Bessborough. 923. The scale of this tragedy cannot be overstated, and yet only 64 burials are accounted for. The Commission of Investigation into Mother and Baby Homes found that it's likely that the remains are buried on this site. In the 1940s in Ireland, the infant mortality rate was 6.5%. In Bessborough, it was 61%, nearly 10 times higher. Officials in the Department of Local Government and Public Health at the time recognised that should the scale of the infant deaths at Bessborough be leaked to the public, it would, and I quote, result in a public scandal. All these years later, we've had no examination of the lands, no physical survey, and no plans to excavate. All we have is a decision to grant planning permission to build apartments on a site that saw so much tragedy. Those who are in power in there for over 100 years think that this is an issue of the past. It could not be more wrong. It is an issue of the present, and it is an issue for the future. The survivors of Bessborough have never received justice. Families are still looking for information and answers. And as we heard, this is not just about Bessborough. If the planning permission goes ahead here, it sets a precedent for the use of other grounds at other institutions like Sean Ross Abbey, Castle Pollard, where burials remain unaccounted for. These children matter, the survivors matter, our history matters. The government cannot simply treat this like a normal planning application and sit idly by as concrete is laid over these graves. Despite what the government say, our reckoning with this dark period in our history is not over. Future generations must understand the true reality of our past. Therefore, the site should be subject to a compulsory purchase order, and we should establish a memorial there for all who suffered. Every attempt to reckon with this period of our history in the past has been deeply flawed. Time and again, successive governments have failed survivors. This cycle must end, and that starts by stopping this planning decision at Bessborough. Abuse cannot and must not be concreted over.
Thank you, Deputy Rice. Our next speaker is a friend and a recent friend. I became a councillor a year ago and she's become a friend since then. Her name is a friend and colleague, Councillor Jessalyn Henry.
Despite the title, I'm not here to give a big political speech. I was incarcerated in St. Patrick's Mother and Baby Home with my mum in the early 80s. I've never thought of myself as a survivor. Mum was that survivor, she was that warrior. She lived through that cruelty. But we were the lucky ones. We got out. I was reunited with Mum after months of separation. A field keeping us apart, locked doors. But we got together and I was able to grow with my mum. And I'm very, very lucky for that. I sat and talked with Mum at length on Monday about what I was going to say here today. All she said to me was, speak from the heart and be my voice. So this is something that I wanted to do, and these are words that she gave me. She wanted me to make it clear that although we hear the stories of the cruelty that took place in these prisons, often the reality is far, far worse. She tells of 7 days post-labour, scrubbing cold stone steps on her knees, the physical scars that still remain, washing other women's blood from the floors when they hemorrhaged and never seeing them again. Not being allowed to eat because your baby wouldn't take a bottle in some way, although you haven't seen or held them, it's your fault. Mum's most vivid memory, however, is the screams. The screams of women and girls being beaten. The screams of women discovering their children taken. The screams of women discovering a woman dead or close to death, either from complications or neglect. The screams, she says, will never, ever leave her. St. Pat's was closed and sold for development in 1985. Not some long lost period gone, our very, very recent past. A lovely housing estate now sits there where we once lived. We've no idea of what lay beneath the grounds, how many babies were discarded. What we do know, however, is that there's 924 children in Bessborough. We know that now. And for all of those women, for all of those babies that were loved, that those women who wanted so deeply to care for their children, we must keep fighting. We must keep having our voices heard. And we absolutely must keep screaming from the rooftops. So thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. That says it all, really, doesn't it? You know, those women didn't choose to be in those institutions. They were incarcerated. One way or another, they were incarcerated. My own birth mother wanted to go out to buy clothes for me to wear when I was going to be adopted, basically, and she wasn't allowed. She wasn't allowed out. And you say that people go, incarcerated. It was like, well, what is that? If you won't let a young mother go out and buy the clothes for her baby, that's incarceration. Those babies didn't choose to be born in there. They didn't choose to die in there. Our next speaker is someone who's been working away quietly, carefully, and with great strength for many, many years around Bessborough. She's an extraordinary woman, and I'm glad to call her a friend, because we come up against each other in terms of campaigns or whatever, and I don't see enough of her, actually. I see her at commemorations and stuff like that, but she has done a phenomenal amount of work quietly behind the scenes, and we owe her so much as survivors of Bessborough and survivors of other institutions for the work that she's done. I'd like you to welcome Carmel Cantwell.
First of all, I would just really want to say that I'm disappointed to hear that there was opposition today when this subject was brought up, because I should have a brother standing next to me today. It's because of this regime that my mother had to go to Ireland, was sent back, was cruelly treated, and he should be with me, standing, campaigning with me today. My name is Carmel Cantwell. My mother gave birth to her only son in Bessborough, a baby born healthy, but through incompetency and inadequate care, both became very ill. Baby William died at 6 weeks old. If given timely medical care, he could have been saved. I stand here not only as a family member of someone connected to Bessborough, but as a voice for those who cannot speak for themselves, the mothers, the children, and the generations whose lives were shaped and in many cases shattered by what happened on these grounds. Bessborough is not just land. It is not an empty field waiting to be filled. It is a place of memory, of loss, of unanswered questions. It is the landscape that holds the stories of thousands of women and children who passed through the gates, many of whom never came home. Hundreds of children who died here have no known burial place. Their resting places remain unmarked, unconfirmed, and unresolved. To build over this land now, before those truths are fully known, would only be premature. It would be a profound injustice. We are told that development is progress, but progress cannot be built on uncertainty or on the possibility of disturbing human remains. Progress cannot come at the cost of erasing the last physical traces of a history the state has already acknowledged as deeply wrong. This land is part of our national story. It is a place of trauma, but also a place of truth. And truth deserves space. It deserves protection. It deserves the dignity of being remembered properly, not paved over or pushed aside. Let us remember 923 children born in Bessborough died. 859 children are without a burial record. Let that sink in. 859 children are missing. And what have the government practically done to find them? We are not opposing development for the sake of opposition. We are standing here because the planning system has a responsibility, a legal and moral responsibility to protect places of culture, historical and social significance. Bessborough is one of those significant sites of its one of the most prominent significant sites in Ireland. It is a place where the past is still unfolding, where questions remain unanswered, where families still search for closure. This is not just a planning issue, it is a matter of public conscience. We have a chance, perhaps our last chance, to do the right thing, to protect this land, to investigate it and preserve it for memorialisation, to ensure that future generations understand what happened here and why it must never happen again. I'm asking you, as planners, as public servants, as human beings, to recognise the weight of this place, to understand that Bessborough is not simply a site on a map. It is a graveyard without headstones. It is a chapter of our history still being written. It is a place that deserves respect, protection and remembrance. Let us not repeat the mistakes of the past by silencing the voices that were ignored for too long. Let us honour those who lived and died here by safeguarding the land that holds their stories. For their sake, for our sake, and for the sake of the generations to come, I ask you, do not develop on the lands of Bessborough. Thank you.
Thank you, Carmen. I became an activist around these issues in 2013 after years of realising just how unequal I was as a citizen in Ireland. The first wave of activism was through my artistic work, which I still do, but then I moved on to going into that building and meeting people like Senator Lynn Ruane and Senator Alice Mary Higgins, who listened to me, who really listened to the issues that I was raising and the aspects of legislation that were deeply discriminatory. You get to meet a lot of people when you start to campaign, and one of those people that I met, apart from Carmel, I asked her the other day, I said, how will I describe you? And she was like, well, I don't know. And she gave me a big list of things. And I said, just give me 3 words. And she said, campaigner for truth. Could you please put your hands together for Terry Harrison?
Thanks everybody. It's going on so long for me, this whole thing, and people who are close to me over the years, over the last maybe 30 years of my campaigning, running groups, being inside and outside Leinster House, has said to me, why are you bothered? Why don't you just let it go? You'll never win. And I said, no, you're wrong. I will win, because I'm on my last breath. I can peacefully leave this earth knowing I did the best I could do. I was in Bessborough, but I was abducted from London by the Catholic Crusade and Rescue Society. My stay all over the years and all the ministers I've been through, same thing. Thanks to Sinn Féin, I don't know why Mary Lou was there. They were the only party at the time, in 2014, wasn't it? Yes. And we got a voice in Brussels. We brought the laundry out of the country, the dirty laundry. And we spoke, and I spoke. And I asked the same question I've been asking for the last 53 years. Who gave anybody the right to imprison me in what I always describe as the nearest thing to a prison camp? The things I seen, the things I endured. But I lost Terry Kiernan, that's who I was. When I landed in a place called Cork from London, I didn't even know where I was going. And I discovered that night, for the first time in my life, I was 100% alone, 100% helpless. And these same religious orders from the Roman Catholic Church, who defined my life and my son's, who stole my son from me. I escaped from Bessborough, but I couldn't escape the memories and what I saw and endured. I would have died if I had stayed there because I was present preview. No medical care, no care whatsoever. My glasses smashed when he was pumping me onto a plane in Heathrow.
and he wore a collar, divine intervention. And he was allowed to come through customs at that time with me. And no opticians, no dentists, no doctors. If you had an abscess, tough. And that's what it was about. But the most important thing is, I am now officially a Catholic label of a PFI. I only found that out recently thanks to the media. And that's pregnant from Ireland. And these people who run this country can sit in there, and most of them are away anyway, enjoying themselves. They don't give a damn. My friends are right. But I don't care anymore. That's honest to God. When I landed, I was taken from Dublin after escaping and landed in St. Pat's on the Navan Road. Let me tell you, Dunboyne's gone. Navan Road is gone. Temple Hill. We have 2 nurseries, by the way, in all institutions. We don't call them homes. Never. But the problem was the second nurseries were for the babies that were not perfect. Any slightest defect, they went into nursery 2. And you were very happy as a young mum, a brand new mum, if your baby was in the number 1. When the bell rang every 4 hours for feeding time, very strict rules. The milk trials are never discussed, 50s and 60s, where all our lovely, beautiful babies were used as guinea pigs so that the great pharmaceutical companies could develop a milk in a bottle, dried milk. That's thanks to the babies. I can't watch that ad, follow on milk. Can't, because nobody talks about the milk trials. Pharmaceutical trials, when people in tweed jackets, she would unlock the nursery for them to go in. And in the report it said, no, sure, how would we ask the mothers? We can't give away their identity. We knew there was something going on. The day I found my son's cot at the age of 6 weeks, empty, and I dressed him that morning, lying in the bottom of it. And those screams that lovely speaker earlier on spoke about, sure, her mum was right. You can never take them out of your ears or your heart. And I call it the living bereavement because my son didn't die. But the stone wall, just like that gate there, it's locked. My son, Niall John Kiernan, does not exist. And it's terrible to say that it's taken all these years and all this time and all the apologies in the world. I can say sorry, 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 sorry. But affirmative action is that, just that, and we will never see it. They want us to die off and shut up and go away. I was one of the people who went up with Borden Planana against the very first thing. I think it was about 5 years ago. And I was cross-examined by the state solicitor and by everybody, and the barrister, the developer and everything else. And we won. We celebrated, all of us that was involved. And now here we are again. And I had to take time out because of spinal injuries, but I've never left. I've always been online and stuff like that. But I'll never stop. But I don't mind anymore about this lot because they'll never hear us. And everything you spoke to, all of these previous speakers said, the answer is no, never. It'll never happen. It'll just go on like this. So thank you very much from the contents of my heart for being here and supporting us. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Yeah. I hear all those stories again and again and again, and every time I speak out, I get a tsunami of emails and phone calls and letters from complete strangers, and it never gets any easier because you think you've heard every possible horror that could happen to a human being, to an adult or a child, and then you just hear something else. It is a dreadful history that we have, and one we really should be ashamed of, but one we really need to face up so that there's truth, justice and reconciliation. Our next speaker is a journalist, an advocate on behalf of survivors, and also the author of Republic of Shame, a really groundbreaking book around these issues. Please put your hands together for Caelan Hogan. Thank you.
Thank you, Noel. and thank you to all the survivors and families still fighting for truth. I met Carmel's mother, Bridget, while she was still searching for her baby William's burial place. She says she was lied to by the nuns at Bessborough. She had to fight for years for the state to hand over documents that would tell her the truth. Even when a letter was found proving his little body was in an unmarked famine grave, they didn't even tell her. This is how mothers and survivors are treated. And this is what William's mother told me. It's human nature to want to know where our babies are buried. We were told so many times in Bessborough it was the will of God. Everything was the will of God. William died because of the will of God. It is not the will of God that more than 100 apartments be built on grounds where children are likely buried in unmarked graves. It is a choice by people in power. Bridget wanted the truth, like so many still searching today. Their babies taken from them in life and in death. The Sisters of the Sacred Hearts of Jesus and Mary, who ran Bessborough and who just sold this land for development, took money from the state, money from families, and even money from survivors searching for their mothers. They gave nothing towards redress. When I was writing Republic of Shame, there were still nuns alive who were witnesses to children's deaths at Bessborough. Thomas Quigley, the man hired by the nuns to run their centre at Bessborough in recent years, told me that the sisters knew more about the burials than they were revealing. The Commission of Investigation says it is highly likely babies are buried at Bessborough and called the information, or lack of, given by the sisters misleading. On Board Plenála refused a previous planning application at Bessborough, only recently stating reasonable concerns about a children's burial ground within the site. Now a private developer is simply being told to let us know if any children's bones are found. And as Noelle said, this is not just bones. These are lives that were lost, that were cruelly taken, and lives of mothers and families still searching for them. Imagine being a mother searching for where her baby was buried, and those in power were leaving it up to private developers. To see those in power defeat amendments to the Institutional Burials Bill that would allow a dignified and fair process of investigation and possibly future excavation to take place at Bessborough, as is happening now in Tuam. Remember that in Tuam, the council allowed a children's playground to be built on land where they knew there was a children's burial ground. How can we let this happen again? The nuns and the state let shocking death rates at Bessborough continue, more interested in hiding illegitimacy. We know one baby died as recently as 1994 in Bessborough. There could be more than 800 babies buried in unmarked graves on grounds they now want to build on. Bessborough is a site of unfathomable pain and ongoing injustice. But it is also a place where survivors and families gather to stand in solidarity, to remember the babies and the women who died, to speak their truths. Survivors have been silenced for so long. Those in power need to listen to them now, and we need to stand with them.
Thanks, Caelan. We have one final speaker, and before everybody disperses after that, I would like to have a moment's silence for those children. I actually wanted to read all their names, and maybe we'll have another event at some stage where we do that, where their names are said out loud. We don't have time this evening, unfortunately. Our next speaker is Teresa Heine Tingal, and I hope I've said that right. I haven't.
Thanks, Noel. I'm so glad I just happened to be over from England for a couple of days, because in a lot of ways I kind of live on the edge of everything that's happening here. But my own mother had me in Dublin in secret because she didn't want to go into one of these so-called institutions. Well, they call them homes, but they're not, they're institutions. And I'm grateful that she did escape the institutions, but following on from that, I was illegally registered as somebody else's child. And the state knew about it as well because I have a file. We're not here just to protest, but in remembrance and and defender of dignity. They're not, it's not an empty land to be built on, and all I can say is shame on the developers making money out of these children. Hungry developers, hunger for money. When does it stop? And shame on the government for going along with it as well. There are names of babies who are denied the most basic rights in life, and indeed death. Building over their graves is a continuation of injustice. If you go to New York, Ground Zero, they have built a beautiful memorial. People can go there and reflect, and it's a day, it really is, and it makes you think. And that's what you want here. You need people to go to these places and think about it, not just forget that it ever happened. This is not progress. It's disrespect and denial that erodes the past. And this has been going on for 60 years. So 60 years later, you're still fighting for justice. It's an absolute disgrace. Land should be preserved with dignity, a place of reflection, and remembering these children, and indeed their mothers that are probably still alive today, and their siblings. A respect for those never given a voice, never had a chance. Not stand by while their memory is erased and history once again covered up, because that's what the government just is good at. They're no good at anything else. You're not going to get any help from them. You're not going to get any support from them. So I always say, if nobody speaks up, nothing changes. So people have to keep speaking, and supporting. I wish I lived over here. I'd get more involved, and I'm just so glad that I was here today. And thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Teresa. I'll give it just 2 seconds. I just want to, just building on, we hear this all the time, the continuous delay, deny till we die, and we've been fighting a long time. Most people have been fighting all their lives. We need a movement around this. We almost had one around repeal the seal when they sought to seal the records after the Commission of Investigation. We need you to support us. As survivors in our thousands, we have supported repeal, we have supported marriage equality, and at the time I was told during repeal, it's not your turn, wait your turn, we'll support you when it's your turn. So it's now our turn, okay? So please stay with us.
Sorry, I just want to say this. On behalf of my mother, Eileen Smith, I never saw the face of my mother. My mother had my brother, Christopher Smith, in Bessborough, County Cork. I never knew I had a brother, Christopher Smith. And my mother was snatched from the day I was born. She kept Christopher, my brother, I believe, in Bessborough for 3 years. And I believe my granny from Newmarket, County Cork, fought to get me, her brother out. My brother out there, and she did. And Christopher, I believe, went back to Newmarket with his mother, which is my mother, Eileen Smith, and I believe my mother was raped, and that's the cause I was here. And a man called himself a priest, because he wore a collar, dragged my mother out of her home, 3 months pregnant on me, and Christopher was also dragged from his home in Newmarket in Cork. And Christopher was put into courts to be sentenced to death, and I was no record of me for 3 years of my life. And then I was put into industrial schools where I was lashed, beaten, and I was also raped and left on the streets of Cork. And this was done by a man called William O'Callaghan, who was called the cruelty man in Cork, who got my mother the day I was born. He took her and put her into the mental home in the Lee Road to go up and rape her. And I found my mother in a mass grave. And then they got my brother and stabbed him to death. A couple of years ago, he was also in a mental home because, for the simple reason, he was homeless when he came out in industrial school. And I found my mother and my brother in a mental home on the one day. I blame
the Catholic Church who done this to my mother because there was a priest who called himself a priest. This was worse than Hitler. They kidnapped my mother. They kidnapped her 2 children, and I found my mother in the mass grave. I'm the voice of my mother, Eileen Smith, who never had a voice. Thank you. Thank you, Mary. Thank you. So here we are. Just before we have a moment's silence, I kept thinking of what phrase could capture how I felt over the last few days. And I've never been so emotional since I visited Bessborough for the Vigil the Sunday week. And there's a lovely quote from the now late Andrea Gibson. And I kind of tried to manage the emotions. But she said, "Let your heart break so your spirit doesn't. So please keep up with us and keep our spirits going in this fight, because it's not over." Thank you. So we just have a moment's silence for the 923. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you to all the speakers who took the time to be here today, all the contributions. It really mattered. Thank you.
Can I spend some time? Thank you. It's very powerful.
Yeah, because she was beside me. Yeah, I checked it on the city. On the 8th of March, and then it got postponed. I just had a mad few months, so I kind of disengaged with it. Yeah. And then it was like, we're only 28, and Sheena messaged me directly, so we're 28, and I was like, great, just in the diary. And then it was. And then earlier that week, it was like, people weren't away. So hard to schedule, so I'll let you know when it's rescheduled. Let me know. Nothing.
Do you have a PDF of this?
You can, of course, take a picture, yeah. So this was created for the memorial in Cork a few weeks ago. I don't know who has a PDF, but if you keep an eye out.
Excuse me, There, guys. So many guys. See if I have. Just a minute, guys. Sorry, guys. I'm looking for something here. It's okay. Sorry, guys. Thank you so much for speaking. You're very brave.
Thank you.
And I'm live streaming. I'm live streamed it now. I don't have any more cards, but you're on YouTube.
Okay.
It's at Kirby's mum. If you,
Yeah,
I gave a card to the lady, to this lovely lady, and I guess so you can get it from her. Maybe she'll forward you on.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I want to let you know that you did your mother very proud.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate
And
that.
wow, what a mother-daughter duo. Incredible.
Thank you.
And you spoke very well as well. It's very powerful. And I just wanted to thank you so much for being an inspiration. Talk about doubling down and digging in.
They've known since 1977.
I mean, you were an inspiration to never give up.
No.
I'm live streaming. Would you like to give a little word of encouragement to people who speak out and might
Definitely.
feel discouraged?
Find their voice. The one thing I forgot to mention up there, which is very important to me, and I can't believe I forgot it, was I never, ever had any shame.
That's not wonderful.
Never.
Here, I'm following. I don't want to fall down, but when I put the camera on you, would that be okay?
Go ahead.
Only with
I'll
your
say it then.
permission.
Yeah.
Is that all right?
I'm all over the place.
Do you know what? I admire you so much. Talk about digging in the heels and just saying, you can't stop me. Oh, thanks. That's okay.
Jesus, how are you, girl? I'm out of the wheelchair, but I'm standing too long, and I'm afraid I'd sway and fall. I'm still getting me balance, but I normally have the walker. Oh, I compose every day, Lady Mary, every day.
I'm so happy that you are.
That's my God, my religion, my belief, my earth.
The most talented.
She's and talk about. I was telling her what an inspiration she is for people who may feel discouraged and let down and feel like giving in. You know, when they're speaking up about something.
That's one thing you see. I can't believe I forgot it. The most important thing is shame. I never had a single thread of shame. And all the groups I ran over the years, it was the one thing I got through for women was the shame belongs to those, and we were never victims, we were targets. They have to own that.
You're the most energetic, talented, creative, brilliant.
You see, I'm lucky, Mary.
Annoying.
Annoying as well. Oh, we're allowed to be that too.
I get to express everything on my camera. It's a channel I use, and it's been my God, everything in my whole life. And even when he was in my tummy, I wrote the song for him, no words. It's now Remember Me.
You got to speak. Have you ever spoken to Mary Lou?
And Mary Lou knows me.
Yeah.
She knows me too well. She knows I started the Mountain Line as well.
Yes. And have you?
I know. Terry.
Hitting 11.
Terry was in bed with me. I just decided to do that.
Fair play to you.
You have it there anyway.
Speak up. Yeah,
But there's no point. Speak actually to be loud. That's what I should have said there. Somebody should be accountable for this.
Of course.
Should be accountable.
Absolutely. I posted on my page that I think Cork City Council should be investigated.
They should, yeah. Because they're the ones that are doing it.
Yeah. They should be investigated for misconduct.
Oh, God, yeah.
No, but they're the ones that are doing it.
Yeah.
You want to go over there for a cup of tea after? Across to the hotel. You see the hotel across there? Do you want to go over after?
Yeah. Well, yes, I do. What's this?
The next one is for neutrality.
Oh, right,
Oh,
yes,
they're coming
yes,
up
of
with
course, yes. That's nice. They pushed it out to give you guys more time so it wouldn't conflict, which is good.
I want where's Patrick Franklin? Where's Carmen?
So, guys, thanks for hanging in.
Carmen, I don't see her around.
Here she is. No, is it? No. Oh, I don't see her. Sorry. Sorry, guys.
Kirby.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. No, that's okay. That's okay.
I haven't seen Mary in a while.
Of course. Yeah.
We go back a long way.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I mean, more support, the better. Would you give a chat just a little bit of words of encouragement if they feel like when they get down and they feel like giving up sometimes?
Who am I speaking to? Which girl? What group?
We're all speak out for victims of. Well, I know you don't probably like the word victim, but vulnerable people. Vulnerable people in danger of being exploited.
It's good to know your audience.
Yeah.
Very good.
We're all vulnerable, I suppose, in a certain way.
Absolutely, every human is. Definitely. By the way, I'm human first. I'm a person before I'm even female.
Yes, that's right. Human rights.
I lost them.
I know, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Do you want to start rolling?
I am already. I filmed the.
Oh, you've done it. So
Yeah.
you don't need me to.
No, I did I live streamed the protest.
Excellent. Well done. What's your name?
Kirby, you can call me Kirby. I'm so sorry. I'll write down my YouTube channel for you. I don't have any more carbs on me. But have you any advice on how to keep going when things get tough?
Never stop believing in yourself and live in the moment. We can bring the history and the past together today, but we don't have to live in the past. Today is what matters. This moment right now, we're both alive standing here. This is our life right now, as we know it. As can be gone, we bring to the moment. So treasure the moment of your life.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank
And
you.
it's kept me going for a long, long time.
It certainly has.
I wake up in the morning, open one eye, bonus. I get a leg out of the bed, another bonus. If I stand up, I'm above ground. And so many of my friends, past friends, colleagues, prison mates, are below the ground.
Yes.
So I will never stop.
No.
Because they're with me too. They're
100%. They're rallying around you, cheering you on.
Including all the children and the young girls' bodies that are on the ground. All the institutions in Ireland. And Temple Hill in particular was where the babies with defects went to. We used to call it the bank.
Gosh. I only heard about this by chance when someone told me about it. It would be good to have
It
more.
was demolished, and a man from OTE rang me that morning because we were good friends.
I sent you an email to give you the heads up. Yeah, no worries.
There's another protest starting and I don't want to be shouting
sorry,
over your... No, you're so important that you're here, but I just don't want to be shouting over you, so if you're interviewing, maybe you just...
No problem. Yeah, I understand. I explained it a lot.
I was just... Thank you, everybody. I'm just going to see.
Hi, everybody. If you're here for the neutrality protest,
Oh, jeez. That was powerful. That was powerful. Thank you. And where's Mary? Oh my God, that was powerful. You spoke so well.
Thank you so much. I saw
Really,
you
it was very, very powerful. I gave you the card, right?
Yes, I have
So
it
you
on
could,
cash, yeah.
I'll end this now, and then I'll probably do the neutrality one too. That's just, I do be saying I have to mute this for a second. I'm so glad she's a very special person.
She is. We need more people like her.
Yeah, fighter.
Thank you so sorry, Mary. Thank you so much, darling.
Thank you so much. But you know, I only heard about this protest today because of Mary, because having to be in contact with Mary. Is there any way we can highlight it more so more people can get involved? And
I mean, that would be, I mean, my goodness.
She's on YouTube.
I put it on TikTok.
Live streaming right now.
I promoted it. I had 50,000 views. I mean, I did that a few times last week.
Okay. Do you have a YouTube channel?
I haven't seen this.
Do you have a YouTube channel?
How's your mom?
No.
Okay.
I do have a YouTube channel, but I don't use it.
Okay, because I'm on YouTube. I'd love if you.
Nice, you had our love.
What's your Instagram?
Well, I'm Carmel.
And that's the main thing.
Okay.
Save forever.
Save Bessborough. Okay, we'll look at it. We'll find it. I'll put it in the description.
Yeah. And there's another lady that she does babies of Bessborough.
Okay, thank you.
We share each other. Whatever.
Thank you very, very much. You're absolutely amazing. And if I can be in Cork, I will be, if there's anything else. But what I think I'll do is I'll end this live stream and we'll start another one for this.
There's another one.
Yeah, I think I'll end this and I'll end this live stream and I'll start another one for the neutrality movement. I'll end this one and I'll start another one. Just 1 second, 1 minute. I'll be right back. Guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to end this live stream and I'm going to be starting another one for with the Irish Neutrality League. Can you come back, please? This has been tough. This has been really tough. I will be sitting down with Mary again, but I can't run into a second protest. And I just want this to be on its own because it's very, very important. Thank you. Please come back in 5 minutes. Thank you very much, everybody, and thank you very much for being here. I'll put a link to the organizer of this protest Instagram in the description. She doesn't have a YouTube, but give her any support you can and encouragement. Thank you very, very much. Thank you, guys. Be back in 5 minutes. Thank you. Thank you. You're all amazing. Thank you.